What's up? It's Xenith. Back with a new tutorial, how to build a simple dubstep track with Ableton and Massive. Go File, New Live Set in Ableton. Switch out of Session to Arrangement View, and that's done by clicking that button on the right hand corner or pressing Tab. I recommend throughout this whole thing that you learn the hotkeys and start using them because they're very useful. Anyways, so we're going to have MIDI layers and audio layers, and MIDI layers are what we're going to use first, or MIDI tracks rather, and we're going to drag a drum rack from the instrument panel right there, the drum rack, and put it on MIDI track 1. So that'll bring up this little pad down here to the left hand corner, and we can drag our samples. This is the Ableton sample bank, and this is my own personal sample bank, and we can drag our samples into those squares down there, and each one can be a separate sample that we can apply effects to, and so forth. So we're going to find a good sample first of all. That one sounds pretty good to me. Turn it up a bit. And I'm going to put a saturator on it because I want to beef it up a bit. So you'll use a sinoid fold, and you can just leave that. So yeah, you can see it kicks a little bit harder. And then I just made a MIDI clip by dragging out a space and then pressing Control Shift and M at the same time. And that was a mistake, what I just did. Okay, what I wanted to do is drag out a space and do Control Shift M, or press that button, which I just showed you. But you could see that it was much quicker to do it with the hotkeys, and you probably didn't even notice that I did it. It was so that I did it so quickly. Anyways, so we've got our little MIDI clip here. You edit the MIDI clip by double-clicking that colored line there. It'll bring up this menu, or this little sub menu down here, and that's where we can enter in notes. So I just put in 2 kicks, a basic drum pattern, really basic, and then I'm obviously going to put a snare on this. And there, if loop mode is on, if you're in Live 8, it won't be on automatically, I don't believe, but in Live 9 it is when you make a new MIDI clip. So turn that on if it's not, and then you can loop it. So let's make a snare, and we're going to make a snare out of a couple different snare samples, just so that it is really audible and has some extra definition. So I found one that I think sounds good, so I'm just going to drag that one into the other square next to that kick on the pad, and yeah, now I'm going to program it in. Double click on the green bar or whatever color bar it is for you, and then it'll bring up that little box at the bottom where you can edit the clip and program in the snare, you know. And you can see where I programmed it in, and it's just like a really simple beat right now. But I'm going to add another snare on top of it, and that's a spectrum analyzer. You can use that to look at what frequencies you're hitting, and right now we're hitting in 200 Hertz really nicely, which is what we want. In dance music in general, you pretty much want a nice hit there in the 200 Hertz range to break through in the low mids, and it's like perceived as bass even, so it'll kind of like thump a little bit. because it's right down there at the bottom of the low mid spectrum. So now we're gonna put another snare that complements it and adds to it, something like that. That slaps a little more. You can see not hitting quite as hard in the 200, but it is hitting harder in the other higher frequencies. So we'll copy, paste, and then duplicate. That's how I did that real quick. Command-C, Command-V, and then Command-D. And obviously you have to move it up one after you've pasted it, and you can do that with the arrows. And now I'm just going to mess with the rhythm a little bit. And I'm going to drag over these two, and I'm going to consolidate them. And that's Command-J. And you can see I'm doing it right now. And I just consolidated it, and you have the full clip. And now it's a loop. Or now you can loop that, but you can add more variation. So I'm going to add more variation to the kick here, the rhythm of the kick. And if I hadn't already mentioned this, you double click to add in notes like I'm doing there. Double click, and then and that'll add a note in a square at whatever grid size you're at. And if you hold on the second click, you can drag it out to whatever length that you want it to be. So that's how I'm doing that. Or you can click once in a space and drag it out. So I'm just gonna mess with this a little bit more. Sounds pretty good to me. And it's already consolidated, obviously, but I was gonna show you. Make sure it's consolidated. Then put it on loop. Now we've got the whole thing looping again, but it's twice as long and we have more variation to the kick. I'm actually gonna move this up one. Alright, so now we're going to add a clap, and what we're going to do with the clap is high pass it and put reverb on it, and that's going to add a tail to the snare that you'll hear a lot of times, and it makes a nice effect. So you're going to want to put an auto filter on that from the audio effects, and we picked a nice clap with a lot of noisy high end. We're high passing it even more now, and we're going to put some reverb on it. And with the reverb, we're going to turn the size down, and you can change the quality, but since we're going to be using this so much, it's going to be hitting every, other beat. We're going to leave it on the lowest quality. So I'm turning the dry wet up to like 90%, almost 100. I'm turning the decay time up so that it has that tail, and then I'm turning the size down. This makes it a little more present in the mix. And there's other ways to do that too. And you can adjust the filters too, and that helps, but I'm just trying to go through this real quickly. Anyways, now do the same thing, copy, paste, duplicate, and now you've got the other snare. And it kind of sounds out of pitch because drums do have pitches. So I put it down. I'm going to put it down to actually it sounded pretty good in -1. So keep that in mind that while it's not incredibly important, it does make a difference, the pitch that your drums are in relative to your song. Okay, so now let's do a ride cymbal. And this will be real simple because I can just do like eighth notes or something, or quarter notes. I'll just use the first one because I want to make it real easy. So I just put one in and then I duplicated it a bunch of times. And that's really easy, you just hit Command D a bunch of times over and over. And I'm not sure I like it. Maybe if I add some effects to it, it'll sound nicer. I'll put an EQ in it, because when you, usually in dubstep tracks, a lot of times when you hear rides, they're like really, they have that kind of sound, they're really high passed, reverby, they have a lot of almost noisy kind of, so we're going to high pass this. I'm trying to make it sound better, but I still don't like it. Maybe put some reverb on it, tweak with that a little bit. Sounds okay, I guess, but let's do closed and open hi-hats instead. So I'm gonna go back into my sample folder and grab a closed hi-hat. Okay. That first one actually sounds nice. Just drag that in. Go for the open hi-hats. Try to find one that complements it. I like that one. And they complement each other. Right now I'm playing them with the keyboard. You can actually play the drum pad with the keyboard as well, if you're in the right octave. So now I'm taking out the ride. I already took out the ride. And now I'm putting in the closed hi-hats. I'm gonna put the open hi-hat on like the offbeat of each one. And I can just duplicate those. And I got a little bit too much there when I dragged out. But now I can just select this whole thing and duplicate that. No, oops. Just grab that and duplicate it. Alright. Now I'm gonna mess with this beat a little bit. You can add a lot of rhythm to your beat with hi-hats. So you'll see by the end of this that it'll have a completely different feel to it. And a lot of times in dubstep you hear triplets being used in the hi-hats, and I'm not doing that right now, but if you want to do that, go to triplet mode, triplet mode, and do that by pressing Command 3, or I think it's in the View drop-down menu, but I'm not sure. Anyways, now I'm consolidating the entire thing so I can add even more variation. I'm going to add variation now to the hi-hats. And I think it'll have a little trill there. You just edit it a little bit more. It's always nice to have more variation in your beats. So that sounds good to me now. And this right here is used to shorten sound. So the closed hi-hat, I can make it really, really quick, or I could leave the whole sample like that. It's one little feature. You just use it to make the sounds more short and succinct. Do the same thing with any sample, you know. If you have a big log sample and you drag it into that drum pad and you just want one thing out of it, you can use that to isolate it, and then every time you click that sample, it'll play that part of whatever you're using, you know. Okay, so I'm just experimenting here with the kick. Low passing the kick, listening to the difference by bypassing it, clicking that thing on and off, deleting it because I didn't like it, and then messing with the I guess sustain of that, or just the clip length really. And then make sure it's in loop mode, and you can drag it out again since we've consolidated it last. And now we've got one big long drum loop. So now we can add another sound. Oh, and I'm going to put a limiter on it. And I forgot to mention this, but before you begin, you should probably just put a limiter on your master track. And that's what we like to see. 200 Hertz and a big fat kick. And then the limiter is, what the limiter is doing is not allowing it to clip. Basically, it's just cutting off the top of the waveform when it gets too loud. And then put that on the master track, and that will make sure that it doesn't mess up your speakers or headphones while you're making your track. And in the end, when you're done making your track, you don't really want it clipping through your limiter, because it's gonna muddy the sound a bit. I mean, unless you have like a really nice limiter, I guess. And I guess I don't really know a lot about that, the mechanics of that, but I would say, you know, don't let your track clip in general. Clipping's not good. Anyways, make a new, use your other MIDI layer if you're in 9, or make a new MIDI layer if you're in 8, and that's done by pressing Command-Shift-T, which makes a new MIDI track, or as I keep referring to them, layers. Anyways, you drag Massive in there from the plugins menu, like we did with the drum rack. And right now I'm fiddling with making a patch. And how I made this patch was I made 3 square, or I went File, New Sound, turned on all 3 oscillators, all on saw waves. I put one up an octave, one down an octave, and you can go rewind. And right now I put the voices in the voicing tab up to 8, and I put on the pitch cutoff, and I turned up that little slider to the right of it just a bit. Put on chorus, put on reverb, And we've got ourselves a nice little super soft bass. Okay, and now we're going to put a filter on it. Just a low pass filter. Alright, and we're going to drag this macro here onto the cutoff so that we can automate the cutoff. And not only automate the cutoff, we're going to name that cutoff, but we can also, yeah, you can hear the change. And then now I'm noticing the resonance is too much, so also I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to have the resonance shift. So that's going to add even more variation to the way the sound evolves. And you can hear now how it evolves. It starts as very bassy, low frequency, and it goes up and up and up. And then it gets just pretty much full super saw at the end. Okay, so now if you have headphones on or you have speakers with a sub and you can hear bass well, you should be able to hear me playing this patch right here in the background. And it's a very low sub bass. And I'm going to turn on record, and I'm playing it with the keyboard. In the top right hand corner there's those, next to the percentage bar, there's the key bar and MIDI bar, little square buttons, and next to that is that highlighted square, which is the keyboard, which means that you can play through the keyboard. And so I recorded that in, just me playing, and then I double clicked on that to go into the edit mode, and I'm right clicking or command clicking and quantizing it just so it lines up. And then I had to fix it because it didn't quantize perfectly. So and now I want to put this to monophonic and turn legato on and restart via gate. Okay, so that sounds pretty good to me. It's kind of creepy and dark. And I'm gonna make this one yeah, like it like that. Sounds good. And now I can copy and paste that, or duplicate it like I did. Just drag what you like and then duplicate it. Alright, and now I'm going to add some automation. So cutoff is already open because in Massive, if you click on your cutoff macro, then that little automation becomes available. And now I'm in draw mode, and draw mode is Command B, or it's that little button next to the keyboard button that I explained earlier. So in draw mode, depending on the size of your grid, you can draw up and down, and it'll be a perfect level line, so you can make it go, things go on and off very easily, and like things of that nature with that tool. And it's very useful, and I recommend using Command B to switch back and forth between it because it makes it much faster. So yeah, there I'm using it, draw mode, to turn the cutoff all the way on. And then I double clicked on that, or I clicked once on that dot in the automation so that it would make this nice ramp. And on Ableton Live 8 you double click it, but in 9 you only click it once, I believe. Or maybe I've been doing it wrong all this time. But yeah, you can hear that it sounds good how it's filtering in. And that's a good basic way to build up a track, is put a cutoff, a low pass filter on it, and then have the cutoff go up slowly. So it creeps up. And now I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to put it in the, or I can just drag it, or yeah, I can cut and paste it. So now it's going to build up from the very start. Okay, so now we're gonna make another sound. So go File, New Sound, do the same thing with Massive. It's just a File, New Sound is just a saw wave usually. I mean, always. And right now I'm just playing around, looking for a melody. And you can program it in if that's your thing. I'm playing it on the keyboard, which is not normally what I do. I usually play it on like an actual keyboard. I mean, when I'm referring to it as a keyboard is like my MacBook keyboard, like the laptop keyboard. But yeah, do however you do it. But what I really want here is just a little blip on the offbeat, so I'm going to turn the level down, and then I'm going to turn the decay down a bit, turn the release up a bit, and then you get like a pluck sound. And then I'm going to add another oscillator, and I'm going to actually put it down an octave. And I'm going to turn that one, and I'm going to leave that one sawed. I'm going to turn the top one to square. And then I'm going to put a LFO on here, and I'm going to make a sound that you hear a lot in dubstep. It's like kind of like a Mario coin sound, and you do that by changing it to a stepper, not a performer but a stepper, and then so that's automating. When I put it all the way up, it's -12, but when it's when it's down, it's normal pitch. So anyways, that made the sound that I wanted. Real simple, basic. You can get it from the Facebook page, and then you can tweak it, and you can probably make it sound better. And I'm gonna put reverb on it, of course, because I always put reverb on everything. Not really, but reverb's nice. So yeah, sounds okay. Now I'm gonna program it in. Drag out the amount of space you want. Press Command-Shift-M. Make a new MIDI clip. Double click on it, and then if you're playing it, you can see where you're playing it in. Like right there, it was lighting up. So I'll put the note there. And now I can just I have to delete this other note real quick. Actually sounds kind of nice with it for some reason. Yeah, but there we go. I'll just consolidate that, and then I'll loop that, and then I'll just drag it out. And now it's what I want. Just every other is a blip. And it's not sounding in the right pitch, and I'm actually going to try to detune these from each other. Oops. There we go. Alright, so we got two pitches working together, and it's making, it sounds a little better to me. Okay, so we dragged out the full length of that second part. It's nice to add things as you go in a track, you know, helps build it up, of course. You start with one small thing, add one thing, add another thing. Orchestrate it as much as you want. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to make this the build right here. So I automated that cutoff. And now I'm making a little drum rack. You're going to want to, yeah, you can make, or sorry, a drum clip, and I copied that, pasted it. I used that button there to make it twice as fast. Copied that, pasted it, made that choice as fast and duplicated it, and then I made that choice as fast and I duplicated it, and then drag and consolidate the whole thing, and you're left with this. And that's why hotkeys are important, because you can do stuff like that really fast. But yeah, I think this would be cool if it was 12th notes. So I'm gonna go into triplet mode, command 3 or shift or control 3 probably on the PC. And I like that. I like how that makes it feel. And then I'm gonna put a snare at the very end, because like when it builds up, build, snare, and then the drop after that. Kind of a nice effect, and you'll hear it often. And right there, I just put on reverb from a send channel that's on the bottom, and you can see those A and B, reverb and delay. On Live 8, it's nothing, and you have to put your own things in there, but they have pre-programmed things on Live 9. So I dragged up that reverb and I just used their custom reverb, which doesn't sound exactly like what I wanted for it, but it just shows you that you can make stuff bigger with sends, because what that is actually doing is it's applying the effect over, you know, and then dubbing it over the other thing. I didn't really explain that very well. But anyways, you can hear this. Sounds pretty good, but now we're gonna want some transition. I'm gonna filter the plug-in too, so it kind of makes the build sound a little bit better. And I'm going into this little sub-menu, massive. And then if you, below that where it says oscillator 1 pitch, I don't want that. I don't think what I wanted was in there, because I forgot that I was using an auto filter. So you click on that little frequency thing in the auto filter, and then automate it. And then right now I'm automating the on and off, device on and off. And I did all that really quickly, but it's not. Let's see how that, I just did it from the drop down menu. It's not that hard. You can just select it from the drop down menu and then do the same thing I did. And actually I would think we should have that snare a little bit earlier. So I'm gonna cut that out, and that's with Command E. If you select a part of a clip and press Command E or Control E, it'll cut out that little clip. So that sounds pretty good. It's a nice little build. We just need some kind of transition sounds, I think, into where it drops off right here. And then another transition sound right here. And by transition sound, I mean like a sound with a tail, like a crash or something like that. Crash is most typical, and then you reverse it. And actually what I just did there was I dragged the auto filter I made for the blip, and I copied and pasted it onto the drums so that I didn't have to make a new auto filter, because I already automated that it would turn off after that section. It would only be on during that section with the on and off automation. So, and you usually want your spectrum to be after everything. I mean, you always want your spectrum to be after everything. I just kind of wasn't paying attention to it there. Anyways, grab a reverse cymbal, and we're going to use an audio layer for this. Audio layers, you can just drag your samples right into them, and then you can see it that's the length of the sample, and that's the sample by itself. And then if you double click on it, then you can bring up that little menu on the bottom and then reverse it with that button that I clicked, and you can pause it back there to see how I did that and did it real quick. And then put some reverb on it, make it a lot of decay time. And we're going to also put that we're also going to put that where the drums drop out. Alright, well, transition sounds better now, and I'm going to take a little break. You should too, and we'll be right back. Alright, we're back. We're going to make a drop now and make a little more melody. So, make a new MIDI layer, new MIDI track, and that's Command-Shift-T, drag in massive. We're going to do a new sound, file new sound, and you'll get a nice little saw wave if you do it correctly. I didn't actually click it, I don't think. Nope. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to change, that's the instrument panel and plugin panel and all that. Anyways, lower this down to -24, so 2 octaves down. Change that to a waveform, and I just picked a random one there. We'll try bend minus. Yeah, it's got some nice tones in there, so put an LFO on there, and you can use that to automate the wavetable going back and forth a little bit. Then we put a screen filter on, and I'll put this patch on the Facebook so you can make it your own. Lower the scream and resonance down a bit to make it bearable to listen to, and then we turn on the amp a tiny bit. We're going to put a sine wave there and have it a little bit between the mix, a little bit between the sine and the triangle. Put on sync mode, and it doesn't sound very good at 1/16, so I want it to sound good at 1/16, so I'm going to mess with it a bit. And let's add another oscillator. We'll go down 1 octave on this one, and we'll just click through, these arrows go through the oscillators one at a time, and not that one, but this one sounded kind of good, the B pulse. So it's got a nice deep wobble sound, and we'll turn that up. And we ended up with something that sounds like modern talking, so whatever, we'll use it, and we'll add some effects, go through and see here, what do you like, what sounds good to you, what sounds good is important, but I'm going to use a tube filter, and I'm going to put a dimension expander on it. Reverb sounds nice, but I'm going to put a dimension expander. Turn the size down a bit, let the dry wet, and down a little bit, and alright, so I'm playing it in and it sounds crap, because it's offbeat and everything, but it's the right note. So we're going to program this in so that at least it's on beat with the song. So go ahead and make a new MIDI layer, or new MIDI clip, within that massive layer, and that's Command-Shift and M, and then go ahead and plug in your note there, and then I duplicated it, so now I've got, a wobble going on, quarter note wobble. And I clicked on that quarter note, the 4, and it brought up that mod 5 destination. And now I'm in draw mode by pressing Command B. And draw mode enables you to do what I just did there, where I change the automation. Now I'm going to do some more. I copied and pasted that, just trying to make it sound a little bit better now. And I'm going to change some more automation, so turning draw mode back on with Command B here in a second. And that's also controlled by the little arrow tool that's up in the right hand corner that you just saw light up there and then went away. That was draw mode, turned on and off. There it's on again. Yeah, and now so I've got a 12th note at the end, which is what I want, or what I wanted. So now you can hear there's a wobble. Whoops, not came in too early. Let's fix that. And put the automation back down, back to draw mode. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, I'm liking that 12th at the end of each one. Except maybe not the last one now. Maybe 8th notes. Yeah, I'm gonna have it pitch up there at the end. And then on the next one, you know, it'd go down, just like how the bass was at the start of the song, the super saw bass. Dun, 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 dun. And then that one would go down. So we're gonna pitch this one down. Yeah, just a half step. There we go. So that sounds pretty decent. Now I'll put the pluck there. It's nice to have a little bit of background noise or background melody during your drop. Although, like, if you take everything out and you just use the wobble, it sounds a little bit harder and heavier and darker. But I like having melody in the background, because what's the point of having a song that's just, you know, no melody, nothing, just a wobble? It's not going to be really that pleasing. I mean, it might, sometimes it's great, but not all the time. Alright, now let's make another sound. Oh, we're going to make a sub. So yeah, I just found the sound. I put a sine wave that's a little bit into the square wavetable. -24, turn the release up a tiny bit, turn the attack up a tiny bit, just so that it doesn't click. A lot of times people turn up the attack and they think, oh, I should get rid of the click. Why is it not getting rid of the click? It's because their release isn't turned up. If you have that release turned down, you're still going to get a click, because it's ending too fast. It's going to make that click. So you have to turn up both the attack and release a bit, just so it doesn't click. Unless you don't care about the click. I don't know. Maybe you EQ it out. It's easier for me this way though. So I'm just going to copy and paste the drum, or the massive layers above it from the bass, so that we have the same kind of and I'm gonna make this, I'm feeling like it should have like a slide or something right there. So I'm gonna put LFO5 on the pitch. I'm gonna lower that 12, so that's 1 octave. Actually, let's go up. That'll make it easier for automation. Good. So now go into the LFO5, put it all up to that. So that's already kind of cool. It like makes that kind of sound. And we'll put this to a half or a quarter. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's just little touches like that with your sub add a lot, because they, you know, it added to the rhythm. Slides and pitch slides on subs are awesome. Oh yeah, and then so this mod 5 amp we're gonna have to mess with. That you brought up by clicking on the amp knob in massive, and then it'll bring up that little automation line there for the mod 5 amp. You can see on the layer in the drop down box, and we use the draw tool to make the mod 5 on only when we want the slides to be there. So you can hear right here that slide. It's doing that when the mod 5 amp is up, but when it's not up, on the rest of it, it's just a normal sub, bass sub doing one pitch, one note the whole time. Okay, so that's pretty good. We got a little wobble and a sub behind it, and that nice little slide rhythm. So now let's do a new MIDI track. Let's do some more melody. Let's put a... Oh, whoops. I skipped forward through the video a little bit here. Because I worked on a melody for a while and then I got carried away and I forgot, lost focus of what I was doing. So let's just do a new MIDI layer, and we're going to delete that one. We only need one. And then a new sound in Massive. So drag Massive in again and do new sound. We're just going to make a real simple sound. I'll use a smooth square, or I'll use a sine wave. And then I'll turn that up 2 octaves. And I'll put on chorus. And I'll turn the release up a bit. And turn the level down a lot, all the way, almost. And also I've got a little bell kind of pluck sound. Turned the rate down a bit on the chorus. And then of course reverb. Turning the size up because I'm using small reverb this time. And so that's a okay little pluck, and I'm going to use audio effects from Ableton, the ping pong delay, which is really nice. It's a delay that will pan left and right, which is really cool. And then I turned the dry wet down a bit and the feedback down to like 33%. So now it's a nice little delayed kind of bell sounding thing, and I made that real simply and easily, and I'll put that in the pack for this song as well. So I'm just kind of messing with it. This doesn't sound great, but I bet I can make something that sounds good. Now here we go. There we go. That just sprung in my mind all of a sudden, so I'm going to record it. And I'm just playing this on the keyboard again, just on the keys, literally on, A, D, whatever key I'm playing on. Okay, so I think I got a good version of that little rhythm in there. So we'll stop this. We'll look for a good part of it. And that was pretty on there, so we'll cut that out. And we'll take both of those. And I'm copying that, pasting it, and then copying the other one, pasting it. Because there was a little thing I did at the end of one of them that I want to keep. That little dun dun dun. And now I'm quantizing the notes and then making sure they line up in the right places. Right here I'm going to quantize now. So right click, or command click, and then quantize. And I accidentally hit the keyboard there. Don't mind that. And that sounds okay. I'm gonna just copy and paste that. Actually, I'm gonna consolidate it. Actually, no, I'll just copy paste it. Easy enough. Oh no, I am gonna consolidate it now, so I can loop it. I'm gonna mess with this a little bit more because it doesn't sound as good as it could. I don't know why I care at this point, but I want a little bit of like swing. If you quantize everything, you'll never get that human swing to it, If you play stuff in and learn, you know, how to play, you'll get that feeling to it. And I'm still just messing around with this. That sounds kind of cool. Yeah. I think I'm gonna put it back how it was. Yeah, move these. I'm using the spacebar to play it and stop it. That's a really useful way to stop and play. Oops, wrong that one more. There we go. And I'll put them back up. Oops, and I accidentally moved that one up too far. I'm gonna have to fix that in a second. You can move, how I've been moving all the things up and down is just with the arrow key. It's real easy to move the MIDI notes. And there I just heard the problem that I had where that one was too high. So I'm going to grab that, lower it down, yeah, to where that other one is. So that sounds good. So there's another melody for us. And you can do that, like take the end of a melody and put it at the end of a verse, and then cut out the bass there. And I'll leave it so that it's only that little bell section. You know, cut the drums out and everything. And it has a nice kind of feeling to where everything stops except for just the melody. And I'm gonna just have it just be those three notes. Let's see how it sounds. You could filter that in how I did everything else, but I left it how it was. You see, that sounds kind of cool how it drops out everything except for that little melody. Alright, well, there you go. We've got, you know, a build. The only thing I didn't show you in a build is like a rising sound. Those are real easy to do. I'm sure there's tutorials out there for that if you don't know how to do it. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, just you know, tweak with your sounds, tweak with the sounds that I'm going to give you, and make them your own. Definitely that'd be one key thing, is don't just use the sounds as they come. You really make the sound your own sound. What sounds best to you, what you think would sound awesome, or just whatever sounds best, you know? Yeah, so I hope you learned a little something. If you have any more questions, hit me up on my Facebook page. Definitely go and grab those sounds if you want them, and tweak them and make them your own. And I will have more bass tutorials and synth tutorials coming soon. And don't forget to hit up my SoundCloud and check out my new songs. I just posted a song recently. Check it out. Peace.